Mr. Jones?
Hello,
Hi, can you please state your name for the record?
George Jones.
You may now explain to the board why you believe you are suitable for an absolute pardon.
Um, this is hard for me. Excuse me, I'm nervous. The crimes, this most serious crimes were 30 years ago, and I've done everything up that um the classes I've done for the sexual assault, and just I've done everything I could to this point. The only thing that I like to do more community services. My grandchildren, two children, family support. Quit smoking, drinking 5 years ago. I've done AA classes, and just in retrospect, it's just to move forward in my life. I've got my, family support is huge, and this is my next step to try to continue on with my journey. Being 51 years old, and what I've done, I'm not negating what I've done. I can't change what I've done, but just moving forward, I think this is a big step in my life to hopefully it gets granted, so that I could just move forward with better job opportunities. I had some jobs, a lot of jobs recently, and it's all because of trying to ascertain a better life for my children, my grandchildren. So that's basically what I've had to say for this. So thank you so much for hearing me.
Okay. We do have victims' input. Ms. Vasquez, are you there?
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. Yes, I have 3 statements that I would like to read on behalf of the victim and his family. Good morning. I am writing this victim impact statement to express the profound impact that George M. Jones' actions have had on my life. I am the victim in this case of sexual child abuse, and I believe it is essential for the court to understand the lasting repercussions of the crime committed against me. The repercussions of George M. Jones' actions have been affecting not only my life, but also the lives of fellow victims. The emotional toll has been devastating, and because of this, I lost my childhood innocence. Constant fear has become a presence, casting a shadow over daily life and the ability to feel secure. Not only has the impact that George M. Jones caused emotionally to my life, it also hindered on all of my future education, disrupting academic pursuits, and personal growth. It's a burden of trauma, each day marked by the struggles from the lasting wounds inflicted by the crime committed against me. Furthermore, I would like to emphasize that granting a pardon to George M. Jones would not be in the best interest of justice. It is important to note that the minimal jail sentence imposed for the crime does not adequately reflect the severity of the offense or the collective suffering endured by the victims. Granting a pardon to George M. Jones would not only undermine the justice system, but also disregard the gravity of the harm caused. I respectfully request that the court considers the full extent of the harm caused and takes my perspective into account when making the decision regarding any potential pardon for Mr. George M. Jones. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Herbert Poirier. Good morning, board members. I am writing this letter in support of my son, Herbert Poirier, who was one of the victims of the convicted sex offender, George M. Jones. My son was 12 years old when the perpetrator, Mr. Jones, started sexually assaulting my son. He assaulted my son multiple times at multiple locations for quite some time. My son's childhood was shattered as a result of the heinous sexual acts. A crime of this act stays with the victim and his loved ones for a lifetime. Very sad and unjust. You try to protect your children, never thinking that this could happen. It is heartbreaking. Mr. George Jones has applied for an appeal to be removed from the sex offender registry. He was charged for sexually molesting 2 children. I would not be surprised if there are other victims as well. He was given minimal jail time for these heinous crimes. Sexual predators are monsters and they damage the victims for a lifetime. I feel that it would be harmful to society if he is granted this removal. The public deserves to know if there is a sexual predator in their community so that the children will be extra protected and the adults are aware. Mr. George M. Jones chose to commit these crimes. My son did not choose to be molested. Offenders should stay on the list for their entire life, as they should never be trusted around children. Keeping the registry active is the only certainty that the public has for this protective awareness of their innocent, precious children. I beg you not to grant him a pardon. Sincerely, Janice Poirier. Good morning, board members. I am writing this letter in regards to Mr. George Jones, who has filed for an appeal to be removed from the sex offender registry and to get a pardon. I am the sister of one of the victims. I am in total disagreement with this appeal. I do not feel that he should be removed from the registry, as it would give him the opportunity to commit the crime of molestation and harm other children. Why would he be given the chance to ruin more innocent children's life? Mr. Jones victimized the children that he was charged for, and who knows if there were others. He is a repeated offender who served minimal time for his crimes. He is a predator who should remain on the registry for life. I beg you not to grant this pardon. Sincerely, Kristen Poirier. Madam Chair, that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Jones, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for your opening statement. But one of the concerns I had with it is that I didn't hear any mention of your remorse or feelings about the victims in your case. That always concerns me in these kinds of cases. What have you been taking any follow-up treatment since you've been out? And
I have.
So can you talk a little bit about that and what you've learned?
Yes. Upon release of prison, I did the 5 years with probation, the sex offender classes for 5 years. I've done the AA, and the remorse is there. I mean, I'm really sorry for what I've done. I can't change what I've done. It's horrific what I've done, and I am completely sorry for what I have done. It's every day goes by that I don't think about this. How I ruined the lives of people and myself. So the AA, it helps. Not drinking, it helps. It's just a daily reminder of there's more in life out there than crime. And my justification, I won't justify what I've done because it's heinous. So yeah, so it's just a daily fight every year, even though it was almost 30 years ago.
Well, can you just kind of share for us what it is you've learned? Are you still in treatment now? In any kind of
I am not in treatment now, no.
So you're not seeking any kind of therapeutic treatment. How about you still in NA or AA or?
No, I don't go to AA or NA. No, I haven't drank in 6 years. I quit smoking and drinking. Right now, it's just about working, and that's it. That's all I'm doing.
Okay, Madam Chair, I don't have any additional questions at this point.
Okay, Ms. Smith, Mary.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Jones, I want to just kind of focus a little bit more on the treatment that you did with probation. Their crimes itself occurred 30 years ago. So you did your time of incarceration, then you came out and you had 5 years of probation. You've been on the registry now since your release. So I know that the board member Rodriguez asked you a little bit about treatment. I'd like you to kind of dig a little deeper and think about 5 years is a long time to participate in treatment. Talk a little bit more about some tools and strategies that maybe you have used throughout your life in the last 25 years to really kind of appears to, live a law-abiding life, work, take care of your family, So let's start with that.
Okay. Being in these classes, it's a group setting. So there's 12 or 15 people. So just hearing people's, other people's journeys of what they've done wrong. And it's always in the back of your head that it's wrong. There's no, I don't feel the need to do this, the crime that I committed. So you just learn to be in your head, to discuss to yourself, put yourself in situations, which I haven't seen is 27 years. There's no feeling of anything like that.
Okay.
So, so the tools that I had is just listening to people. I still listen to people. I still talk to a lot of people, not in a professional setting, but it's out there, and family is important to do that. So there's a lot of tools that were set up in the family establishment like that. So,
and I would make an assumption that, it took a little bit of work to regain the trust of your family.
Yes.
You have two adult children, grandchildren.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how have you managed your relationships throughout the years?
With
I mean, you must have had to meet somebody, disclose that you were on the registry, sort of work through that as a relationship.
Relationships are not easy. So I try not to pursue them. I met a girl now that she knows, and this is, it's tough. I mean, we talk about it all the time, and it's just, so I try to stay away from relationships as it's lonely. But I get it. I mean, nobody wants to hear that you're on the sex offender registry and you want to have a relationship. So,
So, and then you had a couple of situations where you were charged with failure to register on two separate occasions.
Correct.
Can you talk about, I mean, you've been on the registry for a while now, so you've had those two occasions, you received a suspended sentence. What was the situation with the
just mailed the letter late, and it's no excuse, but I had the letter and it's like, oops, you know what I mean? And then you mail it in late and they go by the date that it's mailed at the postage stamp date. And so that was the case with both of them, which was no excuse. You see, I've been on it for 25 plus years. So those were just mistakenly mailed later date than the 10 days that they had submitted to return them.
Okay. So, and I'm also interested to learn or hear a little bit about your recent sobriety in the last 5 years. Is there anything specific that brought that about, or?
I was getting nowhere. My wallet was empty. I was lonely. I was drinking, and I thought I would do something stupid to myself if I continued down that road as to like the poor me attitude and just drinking it away, and it wasn't getting nowhere. And I just came to the realization that this is life, and I'm not dying anytime soon, so I need to buck up and try to do it better. You know what I mean? Like I keep saying, it was a long time ago for these charges, but I still have room to improve as a person, as a human, just to be a productive member of society more than what I am, and the better job opportunities and stuff like that. So,
okay. All right. And you mentioned AA in your opening statement. You said you don't really go anymore. So how did you make that transition to becoming a sober person? Did you get some help from an organization or treatment or?
No, I just woke up one morning and I was done with it. I was done with the headaches and the memories and the the constant of where, like I said, money factor. I was drinking my money away and it wasn't healthy for my body. I was a lot heavier at the time. So I knew if I kept on the path I was going, I wanted to be alive is my main concern. That was my motivation, is to be here, to not drink myself to death and to become a better person.
Okay. Now we've all, I think, said it a couple of times, this was a long time ago. The events themselves were 30 years ago, but you heard the statements from the victim himself, his mother, his sister. So it's obvious that it is still very raw for them.
Yes,
and they have concerns.
Right. I would never undermine that at all. I do understand that. And on the other hand, it's still raw for me as well. So yeah, so there's nothing that
And when you say it's still raw for you, what do you mean by that?
it's painful that I did something.
Painful.
It's just knowing that I did these acts.
Okay.
I know it was a long time ago. I keep saying that, but it's still fresh in your head constantly all the time. And it's despicable. And I get that. And that's why I think moving forward is really important.
Yeah. Do you think did you come through treatment that there was something happening in your life at the time, or?
No, I'm not going to blame any of that.
Okay.
I mean, I lost my mom when I was 13, but that's not an excuse to be the person that I was. You know, I like to think I'm a changed person from all of that, but I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, poor me, because my mom died when I was 13 or the life that I raised. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just not going to happen. I'm a person. I take responsibility for what I've done.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that response. Thank you. All right, Madam Chair, I do not have any additional questions. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Jones, you know, I reviewed your application and I read the comments from the parole manager that interviewed you. And just listening to you today, you seem to have difficulty expressing remorse for the victims. Can you share a little bit of why you struggle with that?
I think I do share remorse, but it's just hard to express. It just brings back what I've done, and it's to physically say out loud. I know that in my heart of hearts, I have severe remorse for what I've done. Like I said, I can't change that, but it's hard just saying it, I guess.
But doesn't it make it easier when you say it so that, you know, it's something that, you know, the victims would have liked to have heard in
Right.
your course, but not heard that, they continue to struggle with that despite the long period of time. But can you understand that?
Absolutely, yes.
So I want to go back and ask you, because you completed the sex offender program at Rushford.
Correct.
So was it the sex offender program that you did for the 5 years, or was other treatment a part of that for the 5 years?
That was the only treatment that I had for that 5 years. There was no other programs after that or with that.
And do you remember, you know, doing a polygraph, and what were the things that they said that you were successful in completing? Do you
To recall, to be honest, no, I don't remember the polygraph or. I know I successfully completed the program. I was on probation at the time. But yeah, I don't remember a polygraph or anything of that nature.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for answering my questions. Mr. Rodriguez?
Madam Chair, thank you. This is a very difficult case. I had the concern initially of not having had any at least discussed any remorse early on in the statement that Mr. Jones made. However, you know, having said that, I mean, there's also been, you know, 30 years of, you know, no reoffending, no involvement with the criminal justice system, no, you know, and he's gone to the therapy, completed his therapy early on, and it's a challenging case because the victim statements were also very, very powerful and very, very strong. I am leaning towards granting the pardon at this point, but I would like to hear from my two other colleagues.
So, you know, I hear what Mr. Jones said was a long time ago. I would have, you know, he says he still struggles with what he does. And I wonder why he did not seek to participate in some more counseling, since it's still an issue for him. And he expressed that he had difficulty expressing remorse for the victim. So, even though it was quite a while ago, I'm thinking that Mr. Jones could probably do with some more therapy so that he can better understand why he's having such difficulty with expressing remorse. So that's where I am. Ms. Smith Palmieri?
So I hear your comments, Ms. Chance, and Mr. Rodriguez's comment assessment too. I think we're all in agreement that we would have liked to have heard Mr. Jones express some remorse. I do think once we sort of dug in there with him, he has a better understanding, or he seemed to be able to speak more openly about it, and appreciate the gravity of the offense. And I think hearing the victim's statements, he should have a better understanding of the long-term effects that his crimes have had on the victim. He did complete 5 years of probation. He did complete treatment. Other than the 2 incidents of failure to register that he received suspended sentences for, and if you look, I looked at him, it does appear that it was a late mail-in and not possibly just moving to avoid anything. He has had employment. I have that he's had a few different jobs, but no real gaps in between. He does have a good support system, it seems, with his adult children. He said he has some grandchildren. I would be in favor of granting his pardon today.
Okay, so Mr. Rodriguez, what is your recommendation?
I would also be in favor of granting his pardon today, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I do agree that he could use some additional therapy, and I would hope that even if granted, that he would consider getting himself involved in some additional therapy for himself. I think that could be very beneficial for him, because I agree with you. I think he does still need that, but I would be willing to grant it today.
So in the case of George Jones, I move to grant an absolute pardon. Mr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Ms. Smith Palmieri?
Aye.
And it's a nay for me, so it's a majority decision. Okay, so absolute pardon granted, majority decision. Good luck, Mr. Jones.
Thank you so much, and I will seek more treatment.
What did we just watch? No, frankly, I'm at a loss for words. I feel like I've gone absolutely mad. For those of you who aren't familiar, we cover hundreds of these similar hearings from Louisiana on my main channel. And just so I can give you an example, in case you're not familiar, of what a proper expungement pardon hearing would look like, I'm going to play one for you right after this, a very similar case. But I'll give you a taste of it first. Let me show you what Mr. Mirabella would tell him after he says that, I just stopped drinking.
If you are an alcoholic or were an alcoholic, you are an alcoholic today.
Let me tell you what Mr. O'Shea would tell someone who says, I just need to move on with my life.
Why should you be alleviated from the stigma of being a sex offender when the victim is still suffering emotionally and physically because of abuse?
Isn't that the way that these judges, if you want to call them that, these pardon board members, if you can even call them that? Are you kidding me? Are you nuts? This cockroach didn't even take the time of the day to prepare an opening statement for why he should have his record expunged. He came in off the cusp mumbling. He didn't even piece together sentences. He showed zero remorse. Words that he used, I wish I could take it back. It it's painful for me as well. I need to move forward like my children and my grandchildren. What are you saying? Then you hear the three letters of the victims, the survivors, and how it affected their lives. But yet they have the courage to step up here and say, and for you to risk him harming another child just for that reason alone, you cannot set him free. And the board doesn't care. Two of them don't care. If you're wondering the sentence that he received, it was a whopping 3 years that he served in prison for what he did. From 1994 to 1997, we don't even know if it was the full 3 years. Thank you, Richard, for sharing this info. And thank you, Miss Rose, for giving me the heads up about these hearings in Connecticut. These aren't regular charges, by the way. In 94, to spend 3 years in prison, which I calculate is probably 21 years old at the time. These are sexual assault 2nd degree, sexual assault 4th degree, injury or risk of injuring, impairing morals of a children, sexual assault 3rd degree, right? This isn't just molestation of a juvenile. And I looked at the statutes, and I can drop those links in here for you. It means full-blown assault. These were 12-year-old little kids, multiple victims that we know about, as the survivors stated. Look at what would make you want. What about what he said or the actions of what he has done in the past 30 years make you want to risk our children? Do you realize that with this grant, he can go and coach kids? He can become a teacher. He can marry a woman with young kids and grandkids, and she will have no idea, because he doesn't have to register. He said it even in this own hearing. It's lonely. It's really hard to meet new people. I want this so I can meet new people. You know, I started dating someone, and it's been hard because I had to tell her. You don't think she has a right to know? Who? It's sick. You know, the blessing about seeing these hearings on YouTube, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that we can just see. You know, a lot of us suspected, if you want to call it corruption, of the leaders that we elect into office, because these are elected positions. Actually, I don't know that. These could be nominated positions by the governor. Probably are nominated, but we elect our governor, I guess. And I think that if people actually knew that this is what was happening in our states, they would demand change. There is absolutely no reason, no justifiable excuse, none that he gave. He didn't get up here and say, hey, I need job advancement. It's really harming my job opportunities. We have seen people come up in Louisiana that said, you know, I want restoration of a firearm because we live in Louisiana. It's a hunting culture. I can't hunt with my kids, you know. And mind you, these are not people who have done crimes or harmed children. These are people who are just looking to not be a felon anymore. This person harmed who? victims that we know about. It's unbelievable. What else did he say? Oh, right. His support system. He doesn't need AA. He just stopped drinking because he was done. He didn't want to kill him, to drink himself into an early grave. And well, what does he do for support? Oh, I talked to a family. I have a family establishment, he says. And the board's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. What else did he say? Yeah. So why did you stop drinking? I was getting nowhere. I was lonely. Or is it why? Yeah. So I was drinking a lot, and so I stopped. And it's like that was just 5 years ago. We all know how quickly he can just snap back into it. It really is nuts. When he talks about when they tell him, we didn't hear you mention the victims at all. We didn't hear you mention any remorse. And he says, well, it's still raw for me. It's painful just knowing I did these acts. I know in my heart. And they said, well, you haven't expressed it. You haven't spoken about it. Well, I know in my heart of hearts, I have severe remorse, but it's just hard for me to say it. It's hard for me to talk about it. But trust me, he couldn't even fake it. And these are the people that you're actually granting it for. It's sick. It's absolutely sick. And it's a slap on the face of the survivors. Think about the pain that they are in. Think about all of that feeling completely wrecked by the system. The system gave him just 3 years in prison. He gets out. He shows up 30 years later like this. Like, who gives an F? Has the worst interview, one of the worst we've ever seen, and that's saying a lot. And they grant him complete disregard for those survivors. Think about what that does to them. And, their intentions were to protect other children. But the board, they don't care. They don't care about our children. They care about this thing. And again, I still have no idea to what benefit he is receiving. For what reason? He didn't say for job opportunities. He didn't know. So it would be easier for him to meet people. Let that set in. Now let's go see a proper hearing of what a proper hearing should look like.
We're here this afternoon because you submitted an application for clemency. You're asking for a pardon with restoration of firearms. You were you pled guilty and were sentenced as follows. On April 8th, 1998, you were sentenced 10 years at hard labor for molestation of a juvenile, 10 years at hard labor for sexual battery, and then 10 years at hard labor for 2 additional counts of molestation of a juvenile. Is that information correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Would you answer Mr. Wise's questions, please?
Good evening, Mr. Sapp.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Could you tell the board today exactly why you want a pardon, what it means to you to get a pardon?
Well, first of all, I've cleaned up my act. I'm no longer an alcoholic. I've been to some rehab programs here in Pennsylvania since I've been here. And I feel like I'm back on the right track. I've got a clean record here in Philadelphia. And I would like to become a free citizen once more. I regret my past, and I don't plan to repeat any of it at all.
Yes, sir. Are you retired at this time? The pardon wouldn't change anything about your money that you make, your retirement or anything, right?
No. No, I have a
So
pension with the VA.
So you just want it just to clear your name up, right?
Yes.
Okay. I know this crime had taken place a long time ago, but it is a very, very serious crime. I want you to know that, Mr. Snap.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long have you lived up in Pennsylvania?
I moved here in 06, right after I got out of prison in Louisiana. April 06.
Okay. How long were you incarcerated?
10 years.
For 10 years. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Roche?
Mrs. Sapp, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Mr. Sapp, why should you be alleviated from the stigma of being a sex offender when the victim is still suffering emotionally and physically because of the abuse?
Well, first of all, I have a daughter that I was accused of molesting in 1985, which was false. And that followed me through the system. I never was convicted of it, but it followed me through the system. Even when I came to Louisiana, I tried to have that problem resolved, and I could not get it resolved. It was like an albatross around my neck. And then due to unforeseen circumstances, I came back to Louisiana, and that's whenever I got involved with the Taylor family. And this got into this situation.
Mr. Sapp, did you molest Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
And you were convicted and served time?
Yes, sir.
Could it be one of the reasons why that you're applying for a pardon is that you are still an active sex offender until March of 2031?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
And you're also aware if you receive the pardon that you would not have to register as a sex offender anymore?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could that be the real reason why you're applying for a pardon?
Well, that's one of the reasons.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mr. Marabella?
Mr. Sapp, I'm very pleased to hear today that you admit you committed this crime, because in your application, you said you weren't guilty. Right?
It's been so long since I did that application, I don't remember exactly what all I said.
You concede today you in fact committed this crime?
Yes, sir.
You also said something a moment ago, is that you are no longer an alcoholic. What do you mean by that?
Well, when I divorced in 85, I picked up the alcohol that I had done when I was in the service. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I drank from 85 to 95 in an extreme way, more than I should have. In fact, I was out of my mind on many occasions.
Did you go to AA meetings or AA meetings? Do you go to them now?
Yes, I've done AA, but primarily the VA has a rehab, the VA hospital here in Philadelphia, they have a rehab program for alcoholics and drug addicts. And I spent 6 months in that program. We had to take urine tests. They gauged us by our activity in the 6 months, and I passed that. And from then on, I haven't touched any alcohol.
Mr. Sapp, if you are an alcoholic or were an alcoholic, you are an alcoholic today.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad to see you finally conceded that you did commit this offense. So that's all the questions that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. That was the nature of my question to Mr. Sapp. It appears to me that the victim in this case was at the time your girlfriend's daughter, and she was about 8 years of age at the time. And this abuse occurred over 4 or 5 year period. Would you agree to that?
Yes. Like I say, I was drinking heavily, probably a fifth or 2/5 of alcohol a day. So a lot of stuff I don't recall.
Okay. All right.
That's probably
And
why.
let me just refresh your memory on what you did put on your application. I know you said it's been a while since you completed it, but this is what you said. Sexual battery of a minor. I did not plea bargain said case because I knew I was not guilty, but because I could not prove my innocence in this matter. I had no other choice in the matter. After serving 2 years in the county jail, I took the sentence and served every day of my 10-year sentence. I still maintain my innocence. Would you comment on that?
I have no comment.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I don't have any other questions of you, sir. Thank you. I'd like to hear I think we'd all like to hear from Miss Allison Taylor. You have to unmute your microphone.
Okay, let me see.
Okay, go ahead. Could you introduce yourself, Miss Taylor?
Yes, my name is Allison Taylor. I am the victim in the case under review. I would like to thank y'all for the opportunity to allow me to speak here today. I do not feel this man should get this pardon because I do not feel I was the first victim. I do not feel I was the last victim. I feel I was the only victim who spoke up. I feel I was the only victim who fought against him and got him put in prison. But this man has never taken accountability for what he's done. He blamed me when it came out. He told my mother I seduced him at 8 years old. He told her that me jumping on his lap was asking for all of the things, the horrible things that he did to me. And I refuse to believe that this man deserves the opportunity to just forget all this. This has to stay with me till the day I die. I feel it should stay with him as well. I don't really know what else to say besides that. It's just, I don't feel he should have the opportunity. And then for something as trivial as owning a gun. My life is not worth a gun. The trauma that I went through is not worth him owning a gun. Again, I just don't think it's right. I don't. And I refuse to let him die labeled anything other than what he is, which is a monster. So I will fight. I will fight.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for sharing your thoughts with us today. I know that took a lot of courage. Thank you. Mr. Sapp, I think I need to advise you that there is also opposition that's been expressed to favorable consideration on your behalf today, and that comes from the district attorney's office in the 15th Judicial District in Louisiana, Lafayette Parish, the sheriff in Lafayette Parish, as well as Lafayette Chief of Police. You need to be aware of that. I realize you're in Pennsylvania, but that opposition has been expressed as part of the investigative process. Sir, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we vote?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. I think that we're prepared to vote. I'll ask Mr. Wise for your vote.
At this time, I vote to deny because of strong opposition, also strong law enforcement and judicial opposition, your past criminal record. That's my vote.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Roche?
Mr. Sapp, my vote is to deny your request based upon adamant opposition from the victim, the whole community, legal community is opposed, and you are a sex offender registered until 2031, and I'm not going to vote to grant just to release you from your obligations.
Mr. Marabella?
Ms. Taylor, I would like to commend you for the courage that you had to come before us today and to state your piece. So thank you very much for being here. Mr. Sapp, my vote is the same as my colleagues. I was finally glad to hear you admit that you committed this offense, and it's likely you may have committed other offenses that you perhaps do not admit to. But it is my vote to deny your request for a pardon as well. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. And Mr. Sapp, my vote is also to deny your application for clemency. So you've received a unanimous vote today to deny your request for clemency. Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for being with us today.
Ms. Taylor.
The contrast between him, the cockroach, and that survivor is palpable. It's just absolutely insane. You know, you can see them in all shapes and sizes in all different stages. Here he is sitting here trying to make himself to look up to be innocent. He even puts in his application that he was innocent. He thought he can get away with it. That's how dangerous these roaches are. That's how evil they are. Now, I don't have more information to share on this crime, but I think we got a pretty good understanding. This, as she said, she wasn't his first. She wasn't his last. She was simply the only one that fought back. He has a trail of victim that goes back as long as he lives. He's a scary man. The information, he's 6'7". He drives a vintage American muscle car. You know, he's probably not, working on his next victims. That's why he needs to clear this up. He's afraid they'll Google him. It's just absolutely terrifying. And we've seen it over and over. Yeah, he blamed her. She sat on his lap. She seduced him, right? And they say it, and they mean it, and they believe it. We have seen this over and over and over again. And man, I am so proud of her, the way that she fought back to be in the position of power now and to put that little roach right where he belongs. You heard about all of those crimes that he has? How long that list is? And the idea that he's a multiple offender, habitual, that's how many times he's been caught. And the system really only locked him away, it seems, for 10 years. Because the system don't care. Had he have been a distributor, had he had possession with intent to distribute, he'd still be locked up. But when it's children, his own children, his stepchildren, who cares? 7 years old for 5 years straight, who cares? And then he has the audacity to ask her pardon, to wipe it from his record. And while he's at it, pick himself up a firearm. And while he's at it, insult everyone again by stating his innocence. And then saying, I have no comment about that application. We have seen a lot. And he's not the worst. He just fits it right in there with the rest of them. And what's crazier though is that in 10 years, he's not even going to have to register again. For some reason, it automatically backs away. But by that time he'll be in his 80s, and that's still too young. He can do plenty of harm in his 80s, and he can do it for plenty of years. The reason he didn't have lifetime registry makes no sense. The reason he's not life in prison makes no sense. And the idea that she had to get up here after the justice system has failed her over and over again and say, no way, is even an injustice that she has to get up again to make sure that this roach doesn't get his record cleansed. But at least they did the right thing. Made quick work of it. Still terrifying. That'll let you go.